Okay, there we go. Sorry. It's always a journey when I'm ready to record. I'm trying to make it just so that you guys don't like go flying anywhere. As always, as ever, you're precariously placed. Um, there we go. That's good. Works. Okay, so I thought I was recording. Apparently, that was take one. Because for whatever reason, the recording just stopped for some reason. So, guess we're doing this again. It's fine. So, it's funny how time flies. Like, I was looking and it's been 2 months since I've done a video, and that's wow. I don't think it's been 2 months. That's crazy. Um, but yeah, I kind of wanted to pick back up on that narrative, on that series about magic without excuses, and this is kind of one of the outer skirts of the series, but I think it really plays an important role in the magic we do or don't do, and that is how negative we're being and the narrative that we're living in, and especially if that is negative in and of itself. Um, so just to kind of get right into it, um, there was a time where I've talked about this on the channel in the past where I was super, super negative, and I had to really, really work hard to break out of that negative way of being, and get myself to a place where I um, I was happy, and I had to choose it. And I don't know if I was really doing a whole lot of videos about it at the time, but every day I had to choose positivity over negativity. And it was a choice that I had to make every single day, every single minute sometimes of a day. And I know I did talk somewhat, especially here and on the biophilic alternative, about what I would do to combat the negative things that I would say about myself. Um, and the truth of the matter is you have to want to break out of that negative narrative. And some people may not know that that's what they're living in. Some people may think that it's just life and that's how their life is going and their life sucks and whatever, you know. But especially if it's a good friend of yours or if it's yourself, you know, we need to be told sometimes, hey, you know, you're doing a disservice to yourself, and just so you know, this way of being isn't good for you. A lot of times it can come off as condescending to say that to somebody. And I think it's all in your approach of how you do it. So just to give you a bit of context as to where I'm coming from, I have a really dear friend. I care about her a lot. I consider her family. I consider her family my family. But her negativity has just gotten to a point where it's affecting me. And I'm gonna close that window right there. Okay. That really does take away the outside noises. Okay. Sorry. So, this friend of mine, she's a really good friend. I really do care about her. But her negativity is so immense and so strong that it's starting to affect me, to the point where this morning I wasn't paying attention to what I was doing because I was so wrapped up in my head about how I was going to talk to her about this issue that like I just nodded off walking to work, and I crossed on a red, which around here a lot of people do. I do not like to do that because even though cars around here are obligated to stop, it really should be, you know, me who watches that, and not they shouldn't have to watch for me being dumb. Unfortunately, however, this car happened to be a jerk, and he's like honking at me to get out of the street. And I looked over at him and I looked up at the light and I'm like, shit, it's red. So then I'm like, yeah, no, this is making me not mindful of my own situation, and that's now a problem. Every day, it seems, this person sends me text messages, or I'll say good morning, and they'll come back with, oh, what's so good about it? Or, they're like, oh, I spilled coffee. Guess I know what kind of day I'm going to have today. Or it's just something very, very negative every single day. And it's very, very sad because this person inspired me to get off my ass, get over to my altar, and make things happen. She was doing so beautifully in the life that she had cultivated for herself that it made me want more. It made me want to work toward getting out of the place that I was at and getting where I am today. And I feel like since I've started to make my life better, she's just become way more negative. And I don't know how to continually be a light for somebody who only wants to eat that light and not do anything to contribute to it. And a lot of people are like, well, dump her, she's not a good friend, da da da. But truth be told, she's a really good friend. I mean, if ever I needed something, or if ever like there was a crisis with me, she's there, her family's there. And I want to be the same for her. But it's like when you're constantly eating, breathing, living in the negative, you can't hope to be anything more than that, because there's something about negative energy that's just so magnetizing. It's like, it's so weird. It's so strange to me, it seems, because I can work to elevate myself, but the negative, it just wants me so much more sometimes, it seems like the negative energy just wants to grab at us. And I think because anything in life that's worth having is worth working for. And I think that's where positivity comes into play. Like, if it were easy, then everybody would be that way. And I don't know, I think once you're in it, it's easy to be positive. I consider myself now a very positive person, where like 10 years ago, I couldn't see anything like that being anything that could be used to describe me. So when I'm talking to this person, at first I was like, okay, well, let's try to bring her back up into the positive. Let's try talking to her about something good that's going on with her. And now it's just like, I'm just going to ignore it because I don't know what else to say. I don't know what else to say that's going to make a difference. And if I'm talking just to hear myself speak, that's not good enough for me. If I feel like I'm wasting my breath, then that's not good enough for me. I don't want to say anything. But I feel like this is a situation where, as a good friend, I need to do something. And she's the type of person where if I were to say, hey, can I talk to you about this negativity that I'm seeing from you lately? She'll turn that into, oh, now I've done something to upset you, or oh, I've worn out my welcome with you now, or like she'll turn it into something so negative. And it makes me afraid to talk to her, but I need to do something. Well, when you're somebody who's negative, you're really only looking at yourself. And even if you have to pull the positive out, like pull it off just to get to that negative, that's exactly what you'll do, because you're looking for more negative to grow the argument that life is negative, that life sucks, and you're trying to find more ammo for your argument. And we always find what we're looking for in some sense. And if you're looking for negativity, you don't really have to look that hard, because negativity is more than willing to say, come join our cesspool. It's cool, it's cool in the cesspool. You know, but there's such a danger in that. There's such a, honestly, if I'm throwing something back at somebody or whatever, then that's fine. I'll use it because I know how. But if you're somebody who doesn't know how to maneuver between the fields of energy that there are, and you give too much cadence to the negativity, then that's where you end up, whether you mean to or not. It's like, oh, well, I had a bad day. I'm going to let myself say, yes, I had a bad day, and I'm going to whine a bit, and I'm going to vent a bit. I just had a bad day, so I deserve it. Then one bad day turns into like, oh, yeah, yesterday was a bad day. Guess today's going to be a bad day too. And next thing you know, you're stuck in it. It's got you, and there you are. And you don't even realize that it's been, 3 days of a bad day. It's now a year, and I've been nothing but negative. But you don't realize it because it's got you already. You're part of it, and you don't even realize it. And you're just kind of sinking down into that negativity, and you don't realize it, and you don't care, because you're becoming more apathetic to the world around you, to the people around you, and to your own life. And for some people with, severe disabilities like depression or like bipolar disorder or things like that, it's a little bit different. So I'm not really speaking about people like that, because I know somebody who's had severe depression, and that's a medical condition that it's too much to discuss here in this segment. But if you know somebody who has these types of disorders, or who's going through something like that and isn't medicated, it doesn't need to be, it can be holistic. It doesn't need to be by like Prozac and Zoloft and all that stuff. Just even, trying to steer them more toward holistic medicine or whatever you think works for them. Honestly, I think that Big Pharma just works on masking the problem and not fixing the problem. And so they try to put all these different masks on the same face, but they're not trying to do anything about the problem. So the mask might be smiling, but inside the face is ready to not exist anymore. And at that one time that mask can't cover everything, then that person behind that mask is going to have to pay the consequence. And sometimes it's a really crappy consequence. So I have a problem with the fact that a lot of pharmaceuticals, they just mask the issue of things. They don't help fix it. They don't say, okay, let's pay for the therapy or the psychiatry that's going to help you talk out these issues and find a path, that's going to help you. Like, I can go on forever about like mental disorders, because a lot of people that I know have them. And pharmaceuticals have done little more than to mask the problem and throw a shitty little bandage over it. So I don't want to go into that, because I think it's a whole other thing. There's a whole lot of other things at play there. And this person, I know, probably should talk to somebody about what's going on with them. But there's a lot of things going into play with the person I'm speaking about, and I think a lot of it is, a big part of it is accountability. Like, unless we're taught to do it, or unless we are on a path that encourages it, or I don't even know. Like, what brings about a person who is willing to take accountability for the things that they do, the wrongs that they cast upon other people, or like the things that they're doing that contribute to their own situation. Like, I'm somebody who, I will take accountability for the things that I do that contribute to my situation. I'm somebody who I'll take accountability for if I mess up somewhere, if I damage a relationship because I've messed up somewhere. I'll take total responsibility of that when it's because of something I've done. And sadly, a lot of people are not like that. It's always someone else's fault. For example, the boyfriend of a friend. Ex-boyfriend, I should say, such a child, because it's always someone's fault. Someone told on him, someone doesn't like him, and now I know that in the workplace there's possibility for personality conflict, but like, it's always someone else, and that's a pattern. If you're finding that it's always someone else who's responsible for the way you feel, that's definitely something to look at. If you find that it's always somebody who puts you in a situation, that's something you need to look at. If it's always someone else, if it's never your fault, or you minimize your responsibility or culpability in the situation, that's something to look at, because you're a prime target for negativity, because you're not looking at things in a light where you're looking at it from a perspective that casts you in blame where it's your fault, or works on your mistakes to make your life better. And again, there are people that I really should say that I'm excluding from this. People with mental disability, people who have been victims of violent crime, people who have been, assaulted or abused, and they really have a lot to work through. I almost consider that part of the facet of a medical condition, because it does create a lot of issues when that happens to you, no matter what age, especially though if you're a child. So when I'm speaking of this as anyone sitting here like you or I, who isn't cognizant that they have any issues to deal with like that, but even if they do, to a certain extent, if you're finding that it's always someone's fault, it's never your fault, you didn't do anything wrong, and you're constantly blaming others, that's a sign that you might be a negative person. If you're constantly, writing off your day because of spilt milk, if you're constantly sending out negative messages to people and it's not even 8 o'clock, and it's, just because people aren't telling you anything, you still might be a negative person. And I think when we embrace that negative aspect of ourselves, that is the lowest form of being. It's the self-pity, the self-doubt, the lack of courage, the lack of willingness to take charge. It's the lowest possible place of being is in that negative. So once you're in this place, how do you get out? It's a choice. It's a choice every single day. Sometimes every minute of every single day. And I can talk about it now because I'm not there anymore, and I work at not being there anymore. But there was a time where I would call myself such horrible things that I felt like they were the only thing true about me. And it took setting a minute timer every time I did that and saying something good about myself to break that habit. I don't do that anymore. I had to, if I found something positive or something negative about my day, I had to say 3 positives about my day. If it was like, okay, every time I throw something negative at myself, I'm gonna throw 3 positive things at myself, because I refused. There was a point where I was just done being so negative. I couldn't accomplish anything because all I wanted to do was sleep. His life sucked, and I was negative all the time. All the time. Well, guess this happened. Guess my life sucks again. Well, blah, blah, blah. Guess this sucks again. Like, that was my life. That was how I felt about a lot of times, a lot of moments in a day. It took really, really paying attention to that, saying no. Yes, this bill came out of my account when I didn't, think that it should have, but that's okay. My, YouTube channel's doing wonderfully. My tech channel's doing amazing. I'll make that back. It's fine. And it's kind of my way of, like, every day I know that there's this little negative, like, bezoar of negativity just hovering around my head, waiting to strike and waiting to paralyze me in that feeling. And every time I said something positive, I batted it away. And I just kept on doing it, and it was so much work. But I started going on walks a lot and really paying attention to my surroundings and the beauty of where I was. And even if it was just something simple as, wow, that lawn is really green, that's a beautiful lawn. It's stupid seeming and whatever, but I took note because I wanted to work to find the beauty in life and stop finding all of the bullshit. I wanted to really, really hone my skill at positivity because I felt like I was great at being negative. I was great at letting things get to me, but I was not so great at being positive or being my best self and living my best life. One of the things that happened was in meditation, my grandma at the time, because she was the only one that had passed away, she would come to me and I would see her and we would interact in dreams and whatnot, and then she would leave. And letting go of her was the hardest part, to the point where she stopped showing up in dreams because she told me if it was hurting me so much for her to show up in dreams, she was just going to stop, and I begged her not to. Not to stop showing up in my dreams, which she still did for a while. And I'm like, well, how can I get her to come back? How can I get her to come back to my dreams at least? Because at least there I got to see her. And it just occurred to me that living my best life, living my happiest life, aspiring to be, every possible thing that I could be, and doing every possible, thing that I could to bring goodness into my life. That was the best thing that I could do to show her that I'm starting to move on since losing her. And so it got hard, it got really hard because I really, really worked at it. I'd wake up in the morning and the last thing I wanted to do was get out of bed, but I'd get out of bed and I'd walk into the sunroom and I would take the covers off my turntables. And the last thing I wanted to do was spin. And I would throw on a record, and just listening to it would just like compel me to put on the next one and the next one and the next one, until I got to a point where I was uplifted enough to stop. And then I would go to the store, go to like the open market, and I'd walk there, and on the way I would walk there, I would think about how lucky I am to have what I have, and the fact that my visions of that place were damn accurate. And just taking pride in that and giving myself a sense of um, accomplishment to have seen this through to fruition. And just little things. I really clung tightly to little things because it's like an ant trying to climb up, apartment steps. You gotta make little strides of progress when possible. And, when you've exhausted yourself for the day, be easy and just kind of push a little harder, but at the same time know when it's time to stop for the day. And I would really, really work to be authentic in the things that I found positivity in. If I made bread, which I don't eat now, but if I had made bread, I'm like, I made this awesome loaf of bread in my little house and da 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 da. Just the corniest little things because I didn't feel it at the time, but I also wasn't allowing myself to pay attention. All I knew is that I was working damn hard to find some positivity. A year into this work, and I could wake up and get out of bed and start researching why I was always so tired. And was it just depression or did I need something else? And that's when I started looking into my diet and changing the way that I ate and changing up the way that I practiced and changing a lot of things about my life. And I sat down and I wrote out what I wanted for my life. Hey, I'm still here. I'm not going anywhere. I don't plan on going anywhere. I'm going to do something. I'm going to change the situation. I'm going to give myself the life that I deserve, the life that I want, and the life that I've been craving. So I set about writing out those goals. And I mean, like down to the letter, this is what I want. I want A, B, C, D, and E. How am I going to get there? Okay, step 1, do this. How do you do this? A, B, C, D. Step 2, do this. And how do you do this? A and B. And I literally wrote out an outline to get myself where I am now. And in between all of that work, there was still the work to be done on my positivity. And it was a long process. And I had some bad days, and I let myself have bad days because that's normal. But at the end of each day, when I would sit down to eat dinner, Thelemites do I can't remember what it's called, but where they do like, somebody is shouting out there to me and I can't recall what it's actually called because I just do it when I do it now. But it's like, it's a little thing where it's a little ceremony that they do before eating. And you talk about what your will is and to what end and things of that nature. And I would always tell myself that my will is to seek positivity, even in my times of darkness, and to the end that I may be the light that I am looking at now, that I am looking toward. And I just kept going. And I didn't look at where am I in my progress. I just kept going until I felt I was ready to look at my progress. And by the time I was ready to look at my progress, I was sitting in a tent in 100-degree weather thinking, I'm living in a tent, but I know good things are on the way because I've got a job. Now let's look back at all the work I've done. And now let's get myself through this very uncomfortable time by looking back at my progress. And I would sit there in my tent and I would smile because the way that the tent looked at the top is it all came to a point, but in the middle, I want to say it was Degas, the rune Degas, which is about change. One of its aspects is change. And I remember just sitting there thinking, yeah, I really have changed. I feel it. Even in my most angry times and my most negative times, I feel like I can be upset about something bad that has happened, but the world didn't end. And I can go back to writing my hovercraft of happy, you know what I mean? So I think it's really important that I talk to this friend of mine about the negativity that she seems to be exuding, and let her know that I'm not going anywhere, that I'm still here, but I cannot let her negativity become my negativity. And as much as I care for her and her life, I can't be her sounding board for negativity, all the time. If something legitimately bad is happening, like if she's about to, God forbid, if she's about to lose her job, her house, her well-being because of somebody doing something or threatening her or whatever, I'm here. But if she wants to angrily, cast bitchiness toward her spilt cup of coffee, I don't want to hear it. And that's going to be the hardest thing for me to say, because I don't want to be mean, but you can be honest without being cruel. And that's what I'm endeavoring to do. Because not being honest with her is not being honest with myself. And so I need to take care of that. So if you know somebody who's in your life who's negative and who's constantly negative, and all they're doing is eating the light you're trying to be for them, it's an uncomfortable topic, but I think it's important to address it. And I'm going to tell her, my intent here is not to make you feel ashamed or embarrassed. My intent here is to reach a new understanding that compels you to move up, and become the light you're looking at. Because I've been where she is. And it's a hard place to come out of, but it's definitely possible. And sometimes it starts with us. What did we do to get ourselves here? Shit, my job is pissed off at me, and they're saying that I'm always late, but it's not my fault. It's, people don't know how to drive, or the bus is always late, or blah, blah, blah. No? I would look at it as, if I'm always late, well then obviously I'm making the same mistake every single time, and I need to do what I need to do to correct it. Maybe start leaving an hour early, learning how my transit works, or learning how my walk is going to go, and then maybe I can leave 15 minutes early and just decrease that time until I get to work at a time that is suitable for my job and for myself. Like, take responsibility. That's one of the things that we need to start by doing, is taking responsibility and holding ourselves accountable for the part that we play in the situation we're in. Again, excluding persons who have been the victim of crimes, especially assault. When it comes to problems that are really minute problems and can be solved by taking extra precautions, and we're not looking to ourselves first to fix the issue, that's a sign that there may be an accountability problem, and that will leave you open to negativity. And if all that aspect of negativity isn't enough, then there's also the aspect of the fact that if you're a witch, if you're sending things out because you're pissed off about something that someone did, or if you're sending things out because of whatever it may be, it doesn't matter if you believe in karma or the threefold rule, because I can't say necessarily that I do, but at the same time, if you're sending all that shit out in the negative, and that's where you constantly sit, well, honeys, all energy moves around the earth. It moves around the earth. So if you send it out on the negative and you just kick back in that negative, you're going to get hit. Because that's just where you stay, and that energy is going to come back around, because that's just a natural force of how the earth works. It's a natural fact of how that inertia works. Energy makes its way around the earth, and you're going to get hit by that negativity that you send out if that's where you desire to make your home. So I encourage you to aspire to vibrate higher. I encourage you to set boundaries with negative friends, and that goes for me too. You know, and if you're down in that muck of the negativity and you have a friend who is that light for you, then for your sake, for their sake, aspire to be that light that you're looking at, that is shining on you. And, you know, the best way you could pay them back is by being the light. And that's pretty much where I'm at right now, and that's kind of just what I wanted to throw at you guys today. So hopefully this has helped you, especially if you're dealing with somebody who is constantly negative, and, you know, hopefully this will help you if you're going through a patch where everything seems to be happening to you, and maybe it'll help you come to some realizations about what you need to do. The hardest thing to do is to take the first step to make a drastic change in your life. And if being positive is a drastic change for you, I promise you it's rewarding once you start on that path. Because once you really, really take a look at yourself back down there in that muck, like that past self, and you see where you can end up, it's a very gratifying feeling. It's not an instant gratifying feeling, and I know that's what we like these days, but it is a gratifying feeling. And the thing that I think makes it more powerful is that when we're instantly gratified, we often regret those things in which we are instantly, or people we're instantly gratified by. But when we work hard for that gratification, it's usually something that's longer lasting. So that's it for today, you guys. Hopefully I'll be back soon with another video for you guys. I hope you have a wonderful day and many blessings. Bye.